Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a complex stack of sources, articles, official guidelines, deep research, and really just distill the core insights you need.
And today, we are wading deep into childhood development.
We really are. Our mission today is pretty critical. We're uncovering why leading health and education experts are, well, they're sounding the alarm about childhood play and physical activity.
Exactly. We're trying to move past this idea that play is just a cute little break
Yeah.
and frame it for what all the research confirms it is, the fundamental work of childhood. It's essential for building a thriving human being.
And this dive is so timely because there's this huge tension in modern life, isn't there? The assumption in a lot of homes, a lot of schools, is that play is a break from learning, not the mechanism of learning. So we've gathered guidance from the American Academy of Pediatrics, serious health research from the NIH, and developmental science from places like Harvard.
And we have to start by just acknowledging the elephant in the room. This whole focus on play is happening against a backdrop of, increased academic standard, high-stakes testing, just information overload.
Right.
And that pressure has led to this widespread documented trend of less recess, less outdoor time. It forces educators and families into this really difficult balancing act.
Okay, so let's start with the most concrete thing, the body. We need to frame movement not just as, exercise, but as a necessary prescription for lifelong health.
A prescription, that's the perfect word. When the AAP talks about this, they're issuing clear medical mandates, not just vague suggestions.
And it starts really young. I was surprised.
It starts literally at birth. For infants, they need about 30 minutes of physical activity spread throughout the day.
And what does that even look like for a baby?
It's as simple as tummy time while they're awake. That's it.
Yeah.
That satisfies the requirement. It's early structural building for their bodies.
That makes sense. Building that foundational strength. So what happens when they get a bit older, like toddlers?
Well, the recommendation jumps a lot. We're talking 3 or more hours of physical activity daily.
3 hours?
Yeah, which sounds like a ton, but it breaks down to about 15 minutes of activity for every hour they're awake.
So it's more about consistency.
Exactly. It could be free play outside, a neighborhood walk, anything to embed movement into their routine. And then by elementary and middle school, it consolidates. 60 minutes of activity most days.
And that includes some more intense stuff, right?
Right. Things like muscle and bone building activities at least 3 days a week.
60 minutes. That is a significant chunk of time that we really need to protect. But what happens when that time gets chipped away?
Well, this is where the public health data we reviewed. Specifically, a study on low-income preschoolers in Head Start programs becomes so important.
And this is a serious issue.
It's a public health crisis, really. The sources show that while about 1 in 12 U.S. kids aged 2 to 5 are obese, that rate nearly doubles. It jumps to 15% among low-income children. So early prevention is just critical.
And the study looked at how the school environment affects those high-risk kids.
It did, and the findings show this massive gap between the medical recommendation and what's actually happening.
Okay, what's the gap?
Public health organizations recommend that physical activity should be 20 to 25% of the school day.
But that's not what's happening.
Not even close. The kids in this study averaged only about 37 minutes of outdoor play per day.
That's it.
And what's really telling is that the full-day programs, which are 2.5 hours longer, they only offered about 5 extra minutes of outdoor time.
That's incredible. So we're chronically underserving them.
We are. But the good news is the data immediately points to a really simple, cost-effective solution.
Okay.
The study found a clear inverse association. The more time children spent playing outdoors, the more their BMI actually decreased over the school year.
So there's a direct link?
A direct link. And the researchers found a tipping point.
A tipping point.
A benchmark for real health improvement. It was 60 minutes of outdoor play per day. That was the minimum dose needed to see verifiable improvements in their BMI.
Wait, let's just pause on that. This changes how we see recess, doesn't it? It's not just a nice to have.
No.
This research suggests it's a massive, quantifiable public health intervention.
It absolutely is. And the impact is huge, especially for the most vulnerable kids. The analysis showed the difference between kids with high levels of outdoor play versus low levels.
Okay, what was the difference?
It corresponded to a staggering 42% reduction in a child's risk of obesity by the end of the year.
42%. That's an enormous return on investment for just letting kids use the playground.
It is. And this effect was strongest for the kids who needed it most. the ones already struggling with obesity, who are less active at home, or who lived in neighborhoods where it just wasn't safe to play outside.
So school-based outdoor play is an equity tool. It's a safety net.
That's exactly what it is.
That is powerful data. So that's the body. But now we have to transition because the body and the brain are so linked. If play is solving a physical crisis, what is it doing for the brain itself?
Well, the sources point us directly to what the Harvard Center on the Developing Child calls executive function skills.
Right, and they have this great analogy for it.
They do. It's fantastic. They say executive function, or EF skills, are like the brain's air traffic control system.
I love that. So it manages all the information coming in.
Exactly. It's filtering distractions, prioritizing tasks, and letting us switch mental gears smoothly.
And this air traffic control tower, it isn't fully built at birth, right? It develops slowly, all the way from infancy into early adulthood.
Precisely, which is why kids are so bad at waiting their turn. They literally haven't built the control tower yet.
Ah, that makes sense. So this EF system, it has 3 core parts.
3 core dimensions, yeah. And they are absolutely crucial for success in, school, work, relationships, everything.
Okay, give us the rundown.
So first, you have working memory. Think of it as the brain's scratch pad.
Okay.
It's the ability to hold information in your mind, manipulate it, and use it to solve a problem.
Got it. And the second one?
That's inhibitory control. We usually just call it self-control.
The mental brake pedal.
Perfect analogy. It's the ability to pause and think before you act, resisting temptation, fighting distractions.
Then the third piece.
The third is cognitive flexibility, which is just a fancy way of saying you can pivot when life throws you a curveball.
So switching gears, adjusting to new rules, seeing things from someone else's perspective.
You got it. That's the framework.
Okay, so that's the theory. How do we actually see these crucial skills being practiced in real time through play, starting with the really little ones?
It's all about structured interaction. For infants, say 6 to 18 months, we're laying the groundwork. Hiding games are a perfect example.
Like peekaboo.
Even more complex. If you hide a toy under a cloth, the infant practices holding that location in their mind. That's working memory. Then if you move it, they have to update that information.
And then as they get into the preschool years, 3 to 5, imaginary play just takes over, right? That has to be a huge EF workout.
Oh, absolutely. Think about role-playing, like pretending to go to the doctor. The child has to do 2 huge cognitive tasks at once.
Which are?
First, they have to hold a complex set of rules in their mind. The doctor doesn't giggle, the astronaut speaks calmly.
Right.
And second, they have to actively inhibit all the actions that don't fit that role.
That requires incredible focus. If the doctor suddenly starts jumping on the table, the whole game falls apart.
Exactly. The role itself becomes the constraint that builds their internal control. And some programs even have kids draw their plan before they play.
Why?
That simple act forces them to use inhibitory control. They have to think first, then act.
And moving into school age, 5 to 12, this is where games with, hard and fast rules take over.
Right. We think of them as just fun, but they are intensive brain training. Card games like Crazy Eights or Uno are phenomenal for practicing cognitive flexibility.
Because you're always switching between matching by suit and matching by number.
Constantly. You have to pivot your strategy based on what the last player did.
And then the big strategy board games like checkers or Battleship, they must demand all 3 skills at once.
They do. You have to hold a plan in your mind, several moves ahead. That's working memory. You have to adjust it when your opponent makes a move. That's cognitive flexibility.
And you have to resist the impulse to make a dumb move now that hurts you later.
Which is inhibitory control.
Hmm.
So play, in this context, is just repeated, joyful practice of these essential life skills.
So we've covered the body and the mind, but play is maybe most famous for being the ultimate social and emotional toolkit. When researchers talk about resilience and empathy, they always point to cooperative play.
Yeah, cooperative play. It usually shows up around age 4 or 5, and it's the most advanced form of social interaction for young kids. It's not just playing near someone.
It's playing with them.
Exactly. It's an organized activity geared toward a shared goal, whether it's building a huge fort or putting on a play.
So that requires real collaboration.
It does. The defining features are shared goals, assigning roles, and creating and sticking to rules.
And when kids set their own rules for a game, they learn negotiation.
Yeah.
Right. Compromise.
And conflict resolution. Because if they don't, the game just ends. No one wants that.
And the benefits here are just enormous.
Oh, they stack up. It teaches collaboration, trust, advanced verbal communication. But most importantly, it's foundational for empathy.
How so?
You can't succeed unless you can think from your partner's perspective to make sure everyone's following the rules and working toward the same goal. And it demands huge self-regulation managing disappointment, waiting your turn.
I think the most profound part is how symbolic play, pretend scenarios, helps kids process really powerful emotions.
This is what the sources call climbing the emotional symbolic ladder. Symbolic play is a safe space to take these big inner feelings, anxiety, fear, even aggression, and turn them into manageable, fictional ideas.
So if a child is anxious about a doctor's visit,
They can become the doctor in the game, they take control of the narrative, and it neutralizes the anxiety.
and they learn about fairness and justice by seeing it play out in their own stories.
Exactly. They move from just expressing basic needs to handling really complex emotional relationships.
What's terrifying, though, is the trend the sources identify, the historical decline in free play running exactly parallel to the rise in youth anxiety and depression.
It's a stark correlation. Since the 1950s, researchers have tracked this continuous drop in free play. Outdoor play alone dropped 25% between 1981 and 1997,
And that decline correlates linearly with what?
with a sharp rise in youth psychopathology, specifically anxiety, depression, and this generalized feeling of helplessness. Psychologists call it an external locus of control.
Meaning, if they aren't solving the crisis of building a fort or who goes first or making up the rules, they learn to just wait for an adult to fix things for them.
Precisely. Free play is nature's way of ensuring kids develop intrinsic goals, competence, and a sense of control. When we replace that with adult-directed, constantly evaluated activities,
Like high-stakes academic practice or overscheduled sports?
the studies suggest we are, maybe inadvertently, creating settings designed to produce anxiety and undermine that core resilience.
That's a terrifying thought, that the system designed to prepare them is actually damaging their ability to cope. Which brings us right back to the school and the decline of recess.
It's a policy failure, plain and simple. The CDC reports up to 40% of school districts have reduced or eliminated recess since the early 2000s.
And it's mostly driven by policies that prioritize tested subjects like reading and math.
Overwhelmingly, and this is despite the AAP being explicit that recess is a crucial, necessary component of a child's day and should never, ever be withheld as punishment.
So, if educators have to meet academic standards, how do they navigate that tension? It can't just be a choice between unlimited free play and academic mastery.
Well, it doesn't have to be one or the other. This is where the idea of the play continuum comes in.
Okay, what's that?
Well, it ranges from totally free, child-directed play on one end to purely teacher-directed instruction on the other. And the research suggests the sweet spot isn't at the extremes, it's in the middle.
And that's called?
Guided play, or play-based learning.
So how is guided play different from just letting them run wild?
In guided play, the teacher sets a clear learning goal, say, mastering addition. But then they let the children explore that goal with autonomy, using subtle hints and prompts to nudge them along.
Like using pebbles in a sensory bin for counting games instead of a worksheet.
Exactly. And that approach has shown greater success in building skills like math and task switching than traditional methods.
What's really interesting, though, is that the data on this isn't one size fits all, especially for different ages in preschool.
That's a crucial finding. For 4-year-olds, school readiness went up as child-initiated time went up. They thrive on that autonomy.
But the 3-year-olds were different.
They were. 3-year-olds actually showed the lowest school readiness scores when instruction was a blend, around 40% child-initiated.
Why would that be?
It suggests that for the youngest learners, consistency might be more important than variety. They might benefit more from a single approach, whether it's mostly child-led or mostly teacher-led, because they need that predictability to feel secure enough to really engage.
So the solution isn't to eliminate academic instruction, it's to find a developmentally appropriate balance.
Yes, integrate 30 minutes of play into literacy and math blocks. Recognize that play is the mechanism for mastery. It builds the brain's control system, the body's health, and emotional resilience, all at the same time.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've seen that play it's not trivial, it's not optional, it is a highly effective, cost-efficient way to deal with a public health crisis like obesity.
It's a necessary neural workout for our executive functions, and it is the most secure environment for social and emotional growth.
And this essential time is getting lost. We are battling two huge competitors. Screens kids 5 to 8 are averaging 3.5 hours of screen time a day.
And just chronic overscheduling. This consumption of unstructured time contributes directly to the stress and anxiety we're seeing rise in young people.
Given that recess is often the only time left for this kind of interaction, and the pressure from testing isn't going away, the question isn't just about how much time we give our kids, it's whether we acknowledge that the quality of free, cooperative, and imaginative play is a non-negotiable part of their ability to cope, plan, and thrive. So if the research shows that this kind of play prevents feelings of helplessness later in life, what specific opportunities for self-directed, rule-making play can you find or protect for the children in your life this week?